I am an average adult living in the poorest 1% of zip codes, and some study shows I spend almost $600 annually on lottery tickets. Isn't it ironical then that I am by and large the same person who cannot come up with $600 in an emergency? Why is that? To a person of average intelligence, buying a lottery ticket when you can't even afford to pay your medical bills seems irrational. Look at it this way. There is 1 in 300 million chances of winning, say, the Mega Millions jackpot or the Powerball, which are popular lottery games in the US. Victory is as slim a bet as it can get, but many people are still entering the game. It's time that you and I take a deep dive in this topic of personal finance and begin to make sense of it all. And not only that, but explore a better framework for understanding why people spend their money the way they do. Because at the heart of it all is something more than just a simple financial decision. As you and I go about our daily lives, there is one thing we are guaranteed to encounter: money. It will come into our lives and it will leave, a relationship that most people particularly like to represent simply as their income and expenses. Within that flow lies something more significant: the decisions we make in between, which have the potential to affect our future financial status. Few people, if any, make financial decisions purely with a spreadsheet. People make decisions while sitting at the dinner table or in the car when they're driving home from work. It is at these places that personal history, unique perspectives, ego, pride, marketing, and odd incentives are scrambled together into a narrative. Thus, judging people based on the financial decisions they make seems unfair to some extent. Given personal finance is not a hard science like math, where in order to get to X you must go through Y. The very making of personal financial decisions will involve suppressing or aligning with human emotions. And whenever human emotions are involved, you cannot help but get something convoluted. Therefore, the topic of personal finance cannot be viewed as black and white. It's a gray area, and this particular grayness is what I want us to look into and begin to make sense of it. Let me bring something to your attention. My hope is that it might make you feel better about the choices you make with your own money and maybe a little less judgmental about what the people around you do with theirs. It has a lot to do with our psychology as human beings and the wiring of our very brains. Here's the thing, people were born into different generations. They were raised by different parents in different social and economic classes, and in different parts of the world they grew up, experiencing different job markets and different degrees of life. Thus their minds were shaped in different ways, and the lessons they learned were totally different. So why is this so important? Because many studies show that intelligent people oftentimes make poor financial decisions, but I don't think their decisions have much to do with their intelligence more than they do their own experiences. You and I have our own unique experiences with how the world works. Everyone does. So all of us go about our daily life with a distinctive set of views and beliefs about how money works. You know things about money that I don't, and I do too. So when you make a financial choice that seems crazy, what you're really doing is acting rational for your version of the world. Two intelligent people, for example, can look at the same situation and make two completely different decisions. Decision making has a lot to do with one's mental model. Wikipedia defines a mental model as an internal representation of external reality, a way of representing reality within one's mind. It is shaped by emotion and lived experience, and while emotions can, to some certain degree, be similar for most people, actual lived experiences are very different and distinct. Thus, no two mental models can be similar. The mental model is more than just an idea. It's literally how your brain has trained itself to interpret the world over time. And thus, when presented with a situation that requires me to make a decision, I will use my mental model to tell myself a story about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. The decision I make will therefore make sense to me at that moment. The question as to whether the decision I make is right or wrong has a lot to do with what my mental model was shaped by, as I may have been misinformed, I may have incomplete information, or I may just be bad at math. I might have also been persuaded by rotten marketing, or I might have misjudged the consequences of my actions. Now that you and I understand why people make the decisions they make, let us take a deeper look at why people might still make poor decisions despite being very well informed. Even when we understand that everyone's working with different life experiences, financial literacy doesn't become easier overnight. You have no doubt come across people who have read many books on budgeting, investing, and saving, but oftentimes still make poor financial decisions. Why? The truth is, reading books is one thing, but until those lessons compete with the emotional weight of your personal life, they will rarely stick. People born into families living in the poorest 1% of zip codes grow up watching their parents struggle, perhaps using money for survival rather than growth. They learn these patterns intellectually, and it becomes wired into their brains. These people will thus associate money with anxiety, scarcity, or short-term survival. It is thus not surprising to find them spending a large portion of their wages on lottery tickets, because to them it provides the elusive idea of a quick escape into riches. How can they not be tempted? Financial decisions are tied deeply to emotional, often subconscious associations. These associations have weight as their belief systems and embody neural habits they repeat under stress. To undo them, people will need to repeatedly expose themselves to new ideas, regulate their emotions, and take time to form and reinforce new neural pathways. But most people trying to change their finances are under stress. And if there's one thing that you and I know about stress, is that it shrinks the brain's ability to adapt. So even if someone reads a plethora of books about money or hear great advice, the brain literally defaults to old patterns because it has been hardwired to seek survival. That's why knowing better doesn't always mean doing better. So having looked at all of this, how our unique experiences serve to shape our mental models and how we use these models to make life decisions, what now? How does this change the reality of a person living paycheck to paycheck, or one that is consumed by credit card debt? You realize it changes nothing, because awareness alone doesn't pay the bills, nor does it erase debt. But still, my main aim today was to call upon you, my friend, to look inward and outward with a bit more patience and understanding, so that you may avoid rushing to fix yourself or others, and that you may slow down and stop asking the question, why did I do that? And instead start asking, what story am I carrying? Because behind every choice, every dollar spent, and every risk taken, there is a story that is largely unique to you. And if you can learn to see it, that might be the beginning of real change. So the first step will be to change your perspective. And in a situation where you're required to make a financial decisions, I would like you to stop and ask yourself, what story am I telling myself?